Two people can retire with completely different lives, even though they earned almost the same amount of money over their careers. Not double, not triple, almost the same. One of them retires with options. The other one retires still checking prices before buying groceries. The gap isn't the paycheck. It's something almost nobody talks about. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it happens and exactly what to do about it. A recent financial wellness study found that nearly 55% of people earning six figures still describe themselves as financially stressed. Read that again. 6 figures, financially stressed. If income solved this problem, that number should be close to zero. It isn't, which means the real variable was never the size of the paycheck. It's what happens to the money in the seconds after it arrives. That's what this video is actually about.
In the early 2000s, several large employers ran a quiet experiment without fully realizing it. Some companies automatically enrolled new employees into retirement savings plans, and employees had to actively opt out if they didn't want to participate. Other companies did the opposite. Employees had to actively opt in. The financial situation of both groups was nearly identical going in. Same industries, same income brackets, same access to the same investment options. The only difference was a single default setting. Years later, the automatic enrollment groups had dramatically higher participation rates and higher average balances. Not because those employees were smarter or more disciplined, because the default did the work that willpower usually fails to do. This single finding quietly reshaped how behavioral economists think about money. The lesson wasn't people should try harder to save. The lesson was people rarely fight the default they're placed in.
Whoever controls the default controls the outcome more than income ever will. Picture two people, same job title, same salary, hired the same month. Call one of them Daniel and the other one Sarah. Daniel's plan was simple: work hard, earn raises, and figure out savings once life settled down. Sarah did something smaller and less dramatic. In her first week, she set up one automatic transfer the same day her paycheck landed, moving a fixed percentage into an account she rarely looked at. 3 years passed. Daniel got 2 raises. Sarah got the same 2 raises. On paper, they were still financial equals. In reality, they weren't close. Sarah's account had been quietly compounding every 2 weeks for 3 years. Daniel had meant to start more times than he could count, and every single time, something more urgent showed up first. Not because Daniel was careless, because willpower has to win every single payday forever, and a default only has to be set once.
This is the part almost nobody says clearly. Daniel didn't lose to bad luck. He lost to a fair fight he never actually had a chance of winning long term, because the fight itself was the flaw. Sarah removed the fight entirely. Here's a pattern that shows up constantly in personal finance research. When income rises, spending quietly rises with it, almost automatically, unless something is deliberately set up to stop it. Researchers call it lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the sneakiest financial traps that exists because it never feels like a mistake in the moment. It feels like a reward you earned. A promotion arrives. The car gets nicer. The apartment gets bigger. None of these choices are wrong on their own. The problem is when all of the extra income disappears into upgrades every single time, so that 5 years and 3 raises later, the stress level hasn't actually moved. The paycheck-to-paycheck feeling doesn't go away. It just relocates to a nicer zip code. The fix isn't refusing every upgrade. It's deciding in advance what percentage of any future raise is allowed to upgrade your life and what percentage is not allowed to touch your day-to-day spending at all. When that split happens automatically, the upgrade still happens, the reward still feels real, but the raise actually changes something 10 years from now instead of evaporating by next Tuesday. If there's debt involved, there's a version of advice that sounds smarter on paper than it works in real life. Pay off whatever has the highest interest rate first. Mathematically, that's the optimal order. Behaviorally, it's often the reason people quit halfway through. Debt counselors who work with real clients year after year tend to notice the same thing. People who knock out their smallest balance first, regardless of interest rate, are far more likely to still be paying down debt 12 months later. Every payoff creates a real, visible finish line. The people who build real long-term wealth tend to automate this step the same way they automate saving. A low-cost, diversified investment set up once, contributing on a schedule, never requiring a decision on a random afternoon when the market happens to be down and fear happens to be loud. Short-term, markets move constantly, and that's normal. But money meant for a goal decades away was never supposed to behave like money meant for next month's emergency. Keeping them in the same account, treated the same way, is where a lot of otherwise disciplined people quietly sabotage their own progress. If you ask me, the part of this that gets missed the most isn't Rule 5, it's Rule 1. And I think it gets missed because it feels too small to matter. People want the advanced strategy, the perfect portfolio, the clever debt hack. Almost nobody wants to hear that the biggest unlock is a single automatic transfer they set up once and then never think about again.
I've gone back through story after story like Sarah's while researching videos like this one, and the pattern repeats itself in a way that stops feeling like a coincidence. The people who pull ahead aren't the ones making better decisions every day. They're the ones who made one good decision one time and then let time do the rest of the work without needing to be reminded. None of this required Sarah to earn more than Daniel. None of it required a better job, a lucky break, or superhuman discipline. It required removing decisions from days when she was tired, distracted, or focused on something else entirely, which, if we're honest, is most days. Daniel wasn't lazy and he wasn't bad with money. He just kept the decision alive every single payday, and eventually, like most people, he lost that fight to whatever felt urgent that particular week. That's not a character flaw. That's just what happens when a plan depends on remembering instead of depending on a system.
Same starting point, same paychecks, completely different outcomes. Not because of luck, because of what happened to the money in the first 60 seconds after it landed. If this changed how you think about your own paycheck, subscribing to Wealth Fail is how you tell me to keep making videos like this one. And before you go, I want to know, which one of these is already true for you, and which one are you setting up tonight? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. You don't need a bigger paycheck to change this. You need one decision made once, instead of the same decision, fought and lost, every 2 weeks for the rest of your life.